What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Courtside Convos. I'm your host, Tony Vuong, and today I got a pretty cool episode for y'all. I got the honor and the privilege to interview Jonathan Yim, who is a very experienced and longtime NBA coach. And to give you guys some context, this interview was supposed to be part of a class project that I have for school, and it ended up being a very thoughtful, insightful conversation with Coach Yim. So I thought I would share it with everyone. And to give a little more background on Coach Yim, let me just read you off some of his work and his experience in the NBA. So he started off as a video intern with the Clippers. He did that for a year before moving on to the Portland Trailblazers, where he would spend most of his career, 9 years to be exact, being the head video coordinator and a player development coach from 2012 to 2021. And from there, he went on to become the assistant coach with the South Bay Lakers, which, if you don't know, is the G League team for the Lakers. Then after spending 2 years there, he moved to the Greensboro Swarm, which is the G League team for the Charlotte Hornets, became an assistant coach there for a year. And now, as I'm recording this, about 3 days ago, or I think 4 days maybe, he just got named head coach for the Southland Sharks, which is a team in the New Zealand Basketball League. So I'm excited to, follow his journey, and I hope you guys are excited for this interview that I did with him. We talked about, building relationships, building trust. We talked about growing up as Asian Americans and being in the basketball landscape of all that. And then, I kind of asked him how I can, see basketball through a coach's perspective. That's what I want to do when I grow up. So when I get older, really. And I think it was a super thoughtful conversation. I really loved it, and I hope you guys will too. And without further ado, let's just get straight into it. First and foremost, thank you again for taking the time. This is truly an honor to be able to speak with you today. And before we get started again, I just want to hear more about your career, your journey, and what kind of motivated you to get into coaching when you were younger, and what kind of motivates you now to keep on going.
So, so my dad was a minister growing up, and he led the Asian American Fellowship at the Christ Cathedral. And the Christ Cathedral was kind of a bigger church. It's probably one of the larger televangelical churches in America at the time. And he led kind of the Asian American part of that. And he also had a radio ministry. So growing up, I was a pastor's kid. So a little different, right? But unfortunately, my dad passed away when I was like 15. It was very sudden and stuff. And we ended up, we had a funeral for him, and a lot of people came. And the thing that I really remember the most was so many people came up to my family and were just like, hey, like, I never met your dad, but I heard him on the radio, or, I read his, messages or newsletters, and he had such an impact on my life. And I just remember in that moment, I just knew that I wanted to have the same type of impact that my dad had on other people. I wanted to have that type of impact on people. And so when I was thinking about who had like that type of impact on me in my personal life, it was always like my coaches and my teachers. So I kind of knew then, like, that's why I wanted to get into teaching and coaching. And that I went to school, and I ended up, I'm a history major. And so my goal in life was just to be a history teacher and a high school basketball coach. And, a lot of that is just because I wanted to impact people's lives. Even now, I just want to continue to impact people's lives. Like, I try to invest into people more than just basketball players per se.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I try to spend a lot of time with everybody because I mean, even in the higher levels, I think that so many times all the attention just goes to the players and not enough attention goes to the other coaches or
Hmm.
trainer or like the person that lifts or the person that gets the tickets and stuff like that. So I really just try to make a positive impact on everybody that I associate with, and yeah, that's kind of what just keeps me going and motivates me. Obviously with the players, helping them achieve further success and reaching their goals and aspirations. But I also, with other staff members and other people as well, they all have goals and aspirations too. So, helping them achieve that as well, I think is just kind of important to me.
Yeah, for sure. And who in your life would you say has really influenced you the most to get to where you are today?
Um, I'd probably have to say my mom, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think, just you're Asian too, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
like we have strong familiar family values, and we're very close with our family and stuff like that. And my mom, when I was growing up, she really didn't understand basketball coach. I think as an Asian, the joke is always, our parents want us to be like doctors or lawyers or
Yeah.
and right. So when I came and I was like, no, I want to be a basketball coach. I think she was very supportive of me and my dreams, and for that, and she pushed me to be the best, in whatever I was gonna do. And I think that that was important for me. So, when I think about like why I do a lot of things and why I am like the way I am, it definitely starts with my mom. She's probably had, like you say, like the biggest influence on me.
Yeah, I totally feel the same way as you. You know, I'd be talking to my mom like I want to work in sports, I want to work in basketball, and
Yeah.
sometimes she'd be like, "Hey, Tony, I want you working in like an office sitting down," and I'm like, "I don't know, mom, that's not for me." But I go to her for everything. I'm sure you go to your mom for everything, and she'll always be your biggest supporter, and that's the same way for me. But um, yeah, next point is like I'm sure you value relationships really heavily. Why though? Why do you think it's so important to build relationships in life or just in sports or in life as well? Yeah.
Um, I think it's important to build relationships with people because, you know, especially with athletes, I feel like as they've grown up, like in the NBA, these are probably the best basketball players from their city, state, right,
Hmm.
wherever,
Yeah.
in their college, even, right? And a lot of times I think that people might take advantage of them and kind of use them. And so I think it's important to kind of build a relationship with them outside of basketball so that they understand that you're there for them and not just there to use them or promote yourself or prop yourself up, right?
Hmm.
So I think like one of the things that I always try to do is just try to get to know them as people and try to get to know their family backgrounds and what they like and what they dislike, and try to spend time with them, you know. And I think it helps because then I think okay, so like in the NBA, they tell you not to get close because you might
Hmm.
have to cut the kid, or you
Yeah.
might have to like, get rid of the kid, or might have to make a difficult decision, and you don't want your bias because you like the kid to be
Hmm.
the reason why we don't get rid of them or something, right? But I think that it's still important to have those relationships because even if they go and stuff, you can still have a closeness to them, and um, so yeah, that's part of it. But going back, I'm kind of going a lot round and round on the answer here, but um, no, it's important because I've always felt like when I've had a stronger relationship with the player, they're willing to work harder for me. They're willing to trust me a little bit more. You can have more difficult conversations with them. You can hold them to their word a little bit more because you know them a little bit more better. Um, and I honestly think it just makes the the situation that you're in probably a little bit more enjoyable. It's like your buddies or friends, or you have a
Yeah,
close to someone, and you feel like you're doing it together. And when you achieve success, you cheer together, and when you lose or something, you hurt together. So yeah, I really value the relationships that I've built. Um, it's funny because the other day, um, someone asked me, because I was in Portland for 9 years. So they were like,
right.
"Do you wish that you would have left Portland earlier because it might have helped your career, or do you wish that you might have seeked out other opportunities?" And I was like, "No, because the one thing that I really enjoy about my time in Portland is the relationships that I built. And if I would have left like after 5 years or 4 years, whatever, like I don't
Hmm.
know if those relationships with the coaches and players and stuff would be as
Yeah,
close as they are now." So yeah, I think that having a relationship is really important.
yeah. And when you mentioned, like getting close to your players and building relationships with them, I immediately thought back to like my high school basketball coach, and I felt like me and him, when I was feeling down or feeling some type of way, and we'd be able to talk it out. And we still have that connection to this day. And I really value relationships that I built in the past, because you never know when you're gonna need them for you, or they need you for something. So I really respect that about you as well. And along those lines too, while you were growing up and trying to build your career, and you had pros mentor you and all that, how'd you build trust with them and build a reputation that they can put in a good word for you to others as well?
I think so. Like for me, like I'm not a former player, right? I didn't play at a
Yeah.
high level. I think that that's a knock on my resume, right? So to me, like that's something that I can't control. Like I can't control that I never played it.
Yeah.
I'm not 6'5" or 6'4" and I can play in the NBA, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing that I could control is my determination, my grit, and my commitment. You know, so I made sure that I was always committed and I was always determined, and I showed a lot of grit. And one of the ways that I did that was I just outworked everybody. You know, I knew that I couldn't compete with people on a resume level, but I knew that they couldn't outcompete me in my work ethic and my determination.
Hmm.
And that's what I think was always stood out with me, was that I just worked harder than everybody else. And I think in doing so, that's how I learned, or I gained other people's trust, is because that they knew that they could count on me. Like everyone says that they're gonna work hard and stuff. Like if you go through
Right.
an interview, the first thing that you'll say is like, "Yeah, I'm a hard worker," right? And then when you get into the the team or whatever the situation, right? And then you kind of get comfortable, right? The first thing that you do is
Yeah.
you kind of relax. Maybe you don't work as hard, or you don't
Yeah.
do what you need to do, right? And I was never like that, because I didn't have the resume that everyone else, because I didn't have like the network coming in. I just felt like I didn't have the luxury to not work hard and give it my all every single time. So I think by doing that and being committed and being a person of your word, I think that that's what earned the trust of everybody, and that's why people give me like a nice recommendation, or to
Hmm.
other teams and stuff. Because yeah, like if I'm interviewing with, like, let's just use Southland for example, right? Like I interview there and they go through and they say like, "Oh, you have a good resume, and what's your strong qualities?" And I say, "Well, I work hard, I'm loyal, whatever," right? Well, then they call my references and they go, "Okay, say some, like, let me know about John." And then the reference is like, "Dude, I didn't know John until he got on the team, but he's like
Yeah.
the hardest worker that's ever been around. Like he's
Mhm.
committed, all these things, right?" And so then it just hits home in what I said and makes you more trustworthy, because you're a man of your word and people are willing to back that up.
Yeah. Would you say you would always, in these organizations, you'd always have like a growth mindset where you're always trying to learn new stuff and just always be open to, doing new things and not being, what's the word, like content with what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, I think I'm really competitive, and I think
Oh
that
yeah,
that's
for sure.
the quality that you need to kind of move up and stuff. So like I always wanted to be the best in whatever I did. Whether it was, you know, the video coordinator, like I want to be the best video coordinator in the NBA.
Yeah.
I was willing to do anything that it took, and I was willing to take chances, and I was willing to try new things and stuff because I wanted to be the best. And as a player development coach, I want to be the best. As an assistant, even when I was an intern, I want to be the best intern that wiped the floor on the sweat on the floor, right? Like I just wanted to be the best, and that's to basically stand out and stuff. Um, but also, like once I got on the organizations too, like I wanted to be the best because I felt like in those roles, I could give us an advantage to win. And it might have been like a small advantage, like maybe even like
Mhm.
1%, right? But I knew like if I did extra work or something, like it could pay dividends during the course of a game. And like 1% in a 100 possession game is a lot,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
That could be the difference between winning and losing. So like I really like it, maybe I thought too much of myself, right? But I really felt like, I could make a difference, even if it was that small one in a close game, that could tip the scales for us. So I was willing to do extra work and whatever it needed to help the team win and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Because while I was trying to do a little more research on you, I watched this video on YouTube from I think it was like the Kim Chi family. You did like a speaker series there, and you mentioned, I wrote this down. You mentioned how there's no job or no thing that's too mundane that you would do or that you would not do. And like you said, you're wiping floors and all that. You want to be the best at that. What are some things I could do right now where I don't have like a coaching job or anything that I could, you know, try to get some experience to get into coaching really.
Um, I think when I've talked to people that are similar to you and stuff, I think continuing to network
Hmm.
is important and just kind of building
Network
out
for
your
sure.
network and learning from different people. Um, I think that, getting yourself actively involved at your school, right, would be good. Like you're at Metro State or
Yeah, Metro State in Denver.
yeah, so Metro State, I don't know if know their history at all, but maybe 20 years ago, Mike Dunlap was the coach there. And
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah.
actually went to Metro State to go to a basketball clinic of his. Um,
Okay.
this was like 20 something years ago. Uh, but he's a well-known basketball coach that came out of there and stuff. And I think that I'm a firm believer that are you guys D2 now or
Yeah, we're D2.
yeah, back then I think he was even D3, right? So he like was very successful as
Yeah.
a coach and he kind of moved his way up, right? Um, but I think it shows that greatness can come from anywhere, right? It doesn't matter where you are. If you're really good at something, people will find you. Especially in the NBA level, it's like if you look at players, like they come from all over, right? And the reason
All
is
right.
people are always looking everywhere because it's their job. And so I even think for like positions like you would come into, maybe like an internship or, like a entry level position, or even me as a coach, like that's why I'm going to New Zealand to get that experience as a head coach. And
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer that people are always watching and the cream rises to the top, you know. So I would just continue to build out your network. I would continue to do as much basketball activities as possible and build up your resume in any possible way. And then, go to summer league, meet people, talk to people, and then I think through those relationships and stuff, an opportunity could arise, and then you just got to take it, no matter where it is,
Yeah,
whatever it is, right? However much you're making. Like I talked to a kid last summer, and he's like, "Well, I don't know if I can do an internship because it doesn't pay." And I was like, "Well, you don't want to be in basketball bad enough, then, you know?"
yeah, exactly.
When I was when I was an intern, I got paid $0. At least you're getting minimum
Yeah.
for 40 hours, right? So. you just got to make it work, and you got to commit to it, and it's hard, and um, you got to really, really want it. So,
Yeah. And in a lot of my classes, we talked about how, if you're doing it for the money, you're in the wrong industry, because this is all like from the heart, um, from passion. And when you mentioned how you got a network and all that, how do you stay patient and like trust the process to that everything's gonna work out, and your dreams will work out eventually?
so obviously, for me, like I told you in the beginning, my dad was a minister, so I have a lot of faith, and so
Yeah.
I just kind of solely
Mhm.
rely on my faith and know that it's not necessarily my time, it's God's time. And it's funny because like my mom always brings this up to me because like I get frustrated, sometimes,
Mhm.
so my mom brings it up to me all the time that, my dad's ministry's name was Walk by Faith, right? And it's just so like poignant that it's walk by faith and not run by faith, is because
Mhm.
wherever we're going, we're walking and we're going to do it in faith. So that's why I can stay patient and humble and things, because I know it's not my time and it's not on my how I want it. It's definitely through how God wants it. So yeah.
Mhm. And with that, like, in terms of taking the opportunity when it arises, and younger people like me might think like this is a really big risk, like what if I fail at it, um well, what if there's nothing else? And how do you stay like on that path where you just, like I said, just trust the process and keep that faith?
Yeah, I think failure is really good
Yeah.
because so many times, a lot of people, they don't deal with failure. They never dealt with failure in their life, right? And sometimes I think it's good if you fail or you have that. First off, it's good that you have that fear because that means that you really care about what you're doing, right? Like you
Hmm.
have that nervousness and you don't want to fail or do bad because you really value what you're doing and you're excited for it and stuff. But if you do fail and stuff, I think it's okay to give yourself a little grace. You pat yourself on the back and you say, "Hey, you tried, you learn from it, right?" And then you keep moving forward, and the next opportunity will come, and maybe you have a little bit more perspective on what you need to do or what you could do better, and you kind of go from there, you know. So yeah, I wouldn't be afraid about it and stuff like that. And if
Yeah.
I think especially at your age, like I think you should take a lot of chances and swing big, right? And if you
Yeah.
come up a little short, you come up a little short because you're still young enough where you can still pursue again and try it again and stuff like that. The most important thing to me is like even if you fail, like um, you just want to be a good person about it, you know. And like you could be terrible at your job, but if you're a good dude, I think you're gonna get another
Hmm.
opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And um another point I want to get into is, we're both Asian Americans, and I'm sure growing up we didn't really have other Asian Americans in basketball to, go to or lean on. Um, how'd you really felt? How'd you make yourself feel like you belonged in the sport?
Um, I never really looked like it's funny because I know I'm Asian.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes I forget that I'm Asian, right?
Right.
So, it's and the thing is like everyone that I've been associated with, they don't I at least they don't bring up that I'm Asian, right?
Yeah.
So, it's been very good because I've been around really good people. Like yeah, there might be a joke about it every once in a while and stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Uh, but it's not like it hasn't been a deterrent to me. I think that they see, like I said again, I think that they see my commitment to it and how hard I work and, my desire and grit and stuff. And so I think that that's what really resonates with them and maybe not the fact that I'm Asian. you know. But yeah, it has been difficult. I know in certain situations that, I might have been not been given a job because, I'm Asian and maybe there's a stereotype to it.
Mhm.
Um, that sucks, but, that means that like I said, I wasn't meant to be there, like if that's the reason and stuff. So, um, you know, I, I haven't felt, um, I haven't felt overall that being Asian has hurt me. I do know that there's a few other Asian coaches as well, within the
Mhm.
league, maybe just like three or four of us. Um, but we definitely know that we're trailblazers in our own right, and that we're paving a way for the next generation, and that's why I think we're also mindful of how important it is to do a good job and just being really good at our jobs, because that'll open up more doors, I think, for the next generation too.
And do you have like any plans or any ways that you want to influence the next generation?
Yeah, I think like just continue to build out, and like you're the next generation, right? So like meet with you
Yeah.
and talk with
Yeah.
you and like develop a relationship with you and like you know help you and advise you and put you in situations where you're going to be able to grow and get better too, and kind of learn from my mistakes and 'cause I made a lot of mistakes, because I didn't know, right? And I didn't, you know,
Yeah.
um, but like be a resource for I think people, just being available and helpful, I think is important.
Yeah, for sure. You know, in my major, there's not a lot of other Asians in doing sports management, so I'm looking around in my classes, I'm the only one, and and sometimes I kind of feel like, do I really belong here? Like, is this for me? Did you ever get the sense of, having like that feeling or having the feeling of like the imposter syndrome?
Of course, like I
Yeah.
think that I mean, I didn't play basketball, so like I'm on the court and you know um, I've definitely felt that a few times where it's like, dang, like I don't know,
Yeah.
if I'm supposed to be here or whatever. But again, I think it's just I know that I bring value, and I know that you know, I do a lot of things that are appreciated, and I'm a star in my role, and I'm really good at my job. So I do know that like I don't feel that as much as I did in the beginning, right? I think as you're finding your way, especially when you first get in there, you might feel that. But I do think like as you get more comfortable and you get stronger and you find your voice and find your footing, I think that that's less and less likely. Or to me, that was less of a feeling that I
Mhm.
got.
Yeah. And I also wanted to ask you, how, like, when did you really start coaching? Because for me, I realized I wanted to start coaching when I realized that my athletic abilities weren't the same as my peers. I wasn't 6'5" like you mentioned. I didn't have like the 45-inch vertical. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like middle, like halfway through high school, I realized I was not gonna be able to play at the next level. So when did you really get into coaching or decide to coach?
When I was younger, kind of like in high school, I taught. I needed community service, so I went to the Boys and Girls Club and started coaching. So I actually started coaching girls because that was during the time when it was after basketball season and I had
Hmm.
more free time and stuff. So, in California, we needed like 30 hours of community service to put on our resume or college applications. They said that that was good. So that's kind of how I started coaching. Um, we were really good when I first started, so I think that that helped. Because if we would
Hmm.
have been terrible, I don't know if I would have done it again. You know, but I think for me, it was really good because girls are a lot more appreciative, I feel like, than boys. So they really that first group, they really helped me fall in love with like coaching because they were great. They were a really good basketball player. They're really committed. We won a lot, and yeah, they were a good special group to kind of be my first team, and because of them and stuff like that, I really enjoyed coaching. And I did that for a few years, and until I got done with high school, and then I started coaching high school basketball. So, for me, like I've been coaching since I was like 14, I think, 15.
Hmm.
And yeah, like I'm still good friends with a few kids on that team even.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, I started really young just for, like I said, the community service, and just kind of fell in love with it then from there. And like you, it's like I knew I wasn't gonna play it. Like it's funny because I was like a 6 foot point guard that dribbled too much and shot a lot
Yeah.
of. And back in 2002, 2000, that was not what they wanted point guards to do. Right now, like I was ahead of my time. You know, 'Cause now I think everyone would really liked me because I could shoot the ball
Yeah.
really. Um, but I knew that I wanted to stay involved in basketball somehow because I loved it, and coaching was obviously the next. That was a way for me to stay in it and still kind of keep my competitive juices, you know, going. And so, yeah, so that's kind of why I started coaching.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm going way over my time limit for the assignment right now,
That was
but
good.
I- I'll ask you one more question.
Sure.
What is something for me that I can, um, implement into, watching basketball to like see it through a coach's perspective, and because right now I'm kind of trying to, take notes while watching games, and but I'm still want to, get into more of the X's and O's and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that it's important. Like, it's funny because when I was first an intern with the Clippers, right, we spent a lot of time watching games and breaking it down. And
Hmm.
as soon as like that year was over, I guess, maybe even like a couple months into it, I just started watching the game so much differently. And it was like unbelievable. Like I was like, just as a casual fan, there are things that you don't recognize. And then
Right.
after you've kind of been like a scout of sorts, right, in the video room, it's like you start noticing different tendencies, and you start noticing the plays and the schemes and like all these things, right? So I think for you, it's just educating yourself and watching videos and understanding, different things, parts of the game, and then just being able to that out during the game when you're watching.
Okay.
I think that can give you a different perspective. And it could be something simple, right? Like the way that a team like switches, or the way the team,
Hmm.
executes a play, or like a scheme that they always go to, or um, like a pick and roll coverage or something, right? And just like little things, and then you kind of start building your database in your head of like all these things. And um, I think one of my strengths is that because I was in the video room for a long time, and I would break down a lot of the video, is like I just have kind of like a Rolodex of like information. So like when I was with like the Lakers, the coach would be like, he'd be like, this play, blah blah blah, and I'd be like, oh yeah, San Antonio used to run that like 7 years ago, with Manu and Tony, and this is how teams used to combat it and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
And then the coach would be like, do you remember that? I was like, yeah, because I used to watch San Antonio a lot of, San Antonio or something, right?
Yeah.
So like I can tell you like the kind of like the history of the play, or like why they do that, or where do they get it from, because I've watched so much basketball. And I think that that's kind of a cool thing. And I think as you'll see a lot in the NBA, especially, a lot of the teams run a lot of the same plays.
Yeah.
And you might, as you watch it play, you might be like, okay, that's good. And then you might see like a little tweak that a team does, and you might go, oh, I like that, right? And then you
Hmm.
can refer to that, and you can say like, oh, that Denver runs it differently than Chicago, right? And like this is what they do because they have Jokic and Murray, where Chicago has Zach LaVine and Vucevic, right?
Hmm.
You can kind of see the differences and what the coaches are trying to do and stuff. So Yeah, I think just continue watching a lot of basketball and just doing some research. There's actually really good YouTube videos out there.
Right. Yeah.
Just educate you on different things that teams are doing, and then just kind of watching that and just kind of studying and just kind of seeing, hear their explanations, and then as you watch the game, maybe you can point it out as well.
Yeah. Like YouTube, are there any other, resources that you'd recommend? I know I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I've been listening to Thinking Basketball by
Hmm.
Ben Taylor, if you know them. So I've been watching their YouTube videos too. They're one of my most helpful resources. I was just wondering if you had any more that you would recommend me.
Maybe like Slapping Glass, right?
Slapping
I
glass.
think,
Okay.
yeah, I think they're pretty good. Um, yeah, I think I think YouTube's been a really, really good resource. When I was coming up, there wasn't really YouTube, right? Or it was just in its beginning stages. And I think people now really utilize YouTube in a really good way to really learn different things. Like, you can really learn anything in YouTube, I feel.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
just spending the time and knowing, like, just anything that interests you, like I like just kind of me starting this new position. Like, I watched a video on offensive rebounding just to see what this team in college was doing and stuff, right? And
Yeah.
hearing the coach explain it, and then me thinking about it and stuff, and letting it just marinate in my brain, and then being like, okay, maybe I could use some of that, or maybe I don't know if that would work, or things like that. I think is just so good to help you and add value to you.
Hmm. All right. I know I said that was the last question, but something just popped into my
Yeah, hey,
mind.
you're good. I told you, you can have as long as you want. I don't
Yeah.
got anything right now.
So I read this book with Coach K, Leading the Heart,
Okay,
and
on the bear,
one of
right?
the on the oh yeah on the bear, right? Yeah.
Okay.
um, and one of the things he mentioned is how he has this fist. Like, he mentions a fist with like five of his like
Okay.
key elements to a team. I wanted to ask you, what if you had to create a fist to create a team, what would be those five philosophies, values, beliefs, whatever that you do to run a successful team?
Um, Punctuality, right? You got to be punctual, right? Like, I hate
Okay.
people that are late. I think you like it just, it's a bad look, So, I think like being punctual and valuing people's time is so important. So, like, that's always like going to be my number one. Commitment, being committed to the goals of your team as well as yourself, and being willing to do the things that you need to do, um, to achieve success. I think that that's important. Obviously, hard work. To me, it's like being the hardest working team is, um, everyone, like I said, can say that and stuff like that, but are you willing to do the extra things that needed for the team to be successful? So, are you watching film? Are you, getting extra shots up? Are you doing, are you getting, reading the scouting report? Um, I think that that's very important, right? And not just,
Hmm.
playing hard's a given, I think, right? Like, that shouldn't be like a rule or something like, oh, we're gonna play hard. Like,
Yeah,
right? You should just play
definitely.
hard, right? Like, when you're on the court, you should just play hard. But I think like what I mean by working hard is just all those other extra things. Like, even um um like after the game, like, are you doing what you need to do to be ready for the next game? Like, are you doing putting ice on your knees? Are you icing your hips? Are you
Hmm.
getting massages? Are you getting in the cold tub, hot tub? Are you getting in the sauna? Like, all those things I think add up, and they add, they're important to the team. Um, I think the fourth thing that I would have is like loyalty, right? Just being loyal to your team, loyal to your coaches. Um, I'm a very loyal person, so I really value loyalty. Um, yeah, and the fifth one is I probably just just I've said it a lot. It's about me probably, and it's a quality that I just really value is just having grit, and just being able to overcome tough situations and tough times. Nothing is always like a linear way, right?
Right. Yeah.
Up and down and stuff like that. So do you have the grit, and do you have that fight in you that you can overcome tough moments and tough times. Um, yeah, I think that those would be the five. What were Coach K's?
Uh, I'm not gonna lie, I read it a while ago and it just popped into my mind, so I don't remember
Okay,
too much about it.
yeah,
I'll get back. I'll send you a text.
okay,
But that is all the questions I have for you today.
okay,
Just
cool,
thank you again.
absolutely. What year are you in Metro?
I'm a sophomore right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like I think you're in a really good position, right? Like I would reach out to like Denver and see if there's any possibility to help, even your basketball team and stuff, right? And just kind of build your resume up that way, and then go to summer league, connect with other people, just meet new people. I think when I was your age and stuff, like trying to break in, I definitely sent people emails, and I think it's easier
Hmm.
now, right? Because you have LinkedIn, you have Instagram, right? We got
Yeah.
Facebook and all these things to kind of connect with people. But that's going to be your best way to break in is just building that relationship and just kind of, um, finding the people that can kind of help support you, and then like just kind of being in the circle, I guess, right? You kind of hear of a lot of jobs and stuff, and you hear of a lot of positions, at both the G League and the NBA level. And like I could text you in a couple of years and be like, "Yo, like send me your resume or something," right? And then you send it,
Hmm.
and then we push you forward, and then we just see what happens and stuff like that. And that's happened a lot. Um, but I think it's just, again, build your network and then stay connected to your network too, because so many people are just, hey, I want to connect with you, and then all of a sudden, when you can't help them, they just kind of die off, right?
Hmm. Yeah, for
So,
sure.
I think being that committed person that's loyal also, and that shows that you're not just looking for something, right? That you really value the relationship and stuff. Then people will be more willing to help you. When I was in Portland, I hired a kid for an assistant video coordinator spot, and he he had interviewed with me 6 years before, right? He didn't get the job
Hmm.
with me, but he did a really good job of just staying connected with me. And he lived in Houston, so anytime I would, we play the Rockets or anything, he would be like, "Hey, can we grab lunch? Can we grab coffee? Can we grab dinner or something?" Right? And I was like, "Oh, sure, 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 sure." And his career actually got better, so he ended up becoming like the video coordinator for Houston University of Houston. He worked in the WNBA for a little bit, right, as the video coordinator and then an
Hmm.
assistant coach. And when an opportunity arose, even 6 years later, like he was like the first guy that popped into my mind was like, dude, he would be a really good video coordinator to work with, or someone that's really worked on himself the last 6 years and put himself in a lot better position to get the job. And we ended up going through the interview process with him, and he was by far the best candidate, right? Just his
Right.
resume and what he'd done. So like it made it easy for me to be like, hey, would you like this job? you know so you never know what can happen. You just want to continuously put yourself in a position where your resume speaks for itself, and you add value. And then you know 5 years from now someone might have something for you. And that's kind of just the whole remaining in faith and trusting the plan. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate that advice. It means a lot.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, you have my number. Stay in touch. I'm excited to see what happens with you and where your career goes and stuff like that.
For
But
sure.
if there's any way that I can help you, please reach out.
All right, for sure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All
All
right.
right. Have a good weekend.
See ya.
And there you have it. I really hope that everyone watching this, listening to this, um, thought that it was super insightful and loved it as much as I did. I can't wait to follow Coach Yim's journey from here on out. I will be in contact with him. I'll stay in touch with him, and I hope that everyone listening out there can maybe pick something up from this interview and maybe apply it to their own lives, whether you do like basketball or whether you don't, or whether you see yourself in a basketball career or not. I think there are a couple things that you can apply to any part of life, like building relationships. I think that's super important, not just in sports but really in life. You never know when, like I said in the interview, you never know when someone is going to reach out to you, or you need to reach out to someone. It's nice to have that connection and build that trust with people around you. So I really hope, like I said, I keep saying this, but I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, have a good one.